My name is Benjamin Poole, and when I was 23, I gave my life savings to a broker who lost it all. But this taught me an invaluable lesson. I needed to educate myself to make my own financial decisions. Fast forward 20 years, I am no longer living paycheck to paycheck, and I want to share everything I've learned with you. Welcome to Financially Fit. Welcome to Financially Fit. My name is Benjamin Poole, and today I have a special guest with me, Elisa Poole, my wife. Okay, so she is a former teacher. She did it for 20 years, and now she's a health enthusiast. Okay, so I'm gonna go over the Eli Lilly chart, and it goes over, so Eli Lilly makes a drug that deals with GLP-1, and she's gonna...
Translation, weight loss.
Yeah, so it's a weight loss drug. And so she's gonna go over like how to create that same effect inside of your body without having to rely on the use of drugs. And then she'll explain to you a little bit more about like what some of the side effects are for that weight loss drug as well. So let me go ahead and get into it, and then we'll meet up back with Elisa a little bit later. All right, so here we are in the Eli Lilly chart. So this is the chart that I've gone over, and this right here, it's been going up and up and up. When we had this release right here of news that the Eli Lilly was going to be released to the general public, we had this huge spike. And then we had a little bit of a pullback. And then all of a sudden, we just keep running up and up. And then we had news that additional drug users were getting into the markets. And so that should have been a much bigger pullback. So with the weight loss drug that Eli Lilly makes, it's a it started as a type 2 diabetes drug, so it's insulin. And so as you increase the amount of insulin you inject in somebody's body, that is now no longer a type 2 diabetes drug, but it is a weight loss drug. And again, Elisa's gonna get into more of this, which means that when we start seeing the drugs start to skyrocket like this, they're releasing it and they're charging $1,000 or whatever per month, you're gonna have a lot more generic drugs coming into the markets. And so what we're waiting for is more of a pullback. So right here we have this down candle. We had this down candle here, but then we pushed up a little bit higher, and so we're actually waiting for more of a confirmation. I have this parallel channel that stretches back here, it connects through here, and then here is the top of the parallel channel. It did hit it, it pulled back a little bit and got a bounce, but now I'm waiting for it to either retrace back to here, which would be another hit, and then a pullback, and then we're waiting for this gap fill. So I really think that because of the bloatness in the amount of that you get for the, excuse me, hold on one second. Because of the margins that you get in these weight loss drugs, there's going to be more competition that comes into the markets that release these drugs. And then as soon as that starts happening, then you're going to see a much bigger pullback. So the first level I'm looking at right here for a pullback is actually $737. I mentioned this before because that's going to be a pretty significant gap fill. And then as you come down, it also is probably going to align itself with the midline of this parallel channel. And for me, parallel channels are really powerful. Midlines are where price action likes to draw back down into. And so this is my level for Eli Lilly. Then you have this gap window right here. And it is a little bit lower than this trend line that I have drawn in. But this trend line, you have this pivot top, this pivot right here, and then it kissed it here on the way down. So for me, that signals that it's a lot of support for this level. And so if it does break down through here, it will hit this level. So you're looking at a target of just above 68. And then you have this gap fill right here. So I think in the not too distant future, you're gonna get a pretty significant pullback in the Eli Lilly stock. It might take a couple more generic drugs to get into the market, to release their drugs, but ultimately I think that it's only a matter of time before Eli Lilly starts to pull back even bigger. So I'm also gonna go over roadblocks. So last last week, I went over the RBLX chart. And one thing that I was noticing with the RBLX chart is you have this pivot high right here, and it connects through here. So this was resistance out as it went down, and then it acted as support when it got above. And I said that if it gets below this level, this support line, then you have further downside, okay? But because of this upsloping line, if it hits off of here, you're gonna get a bounce. So for me, I didn't really care which way the stock went. I'm a swing trader, so now that it broke below this line, I have a line to go off of. So broke down here, I'm gonna wait for a retrace to what's called the scene of the crime, and then I'm gonna go short. And you can play this into this line. You've got a couple, like this gap window and this gap fill right here, so you're looking at 36.70 or 35.16, but ultimately, this level right here is just above 32.50, and I think that would be the target once it retraces the scene of the crime and heads down. That's where I would exit. And then because of this upsloping trend line, connects these lows right here through these pivots right here, this price action right here, you can actually go long on this. So it doesn't really matter which way the stock market's going, if it's going up or down. What you're doing is you're looking for support and resistance lines, and then you can make your determination on what you're gonna do with that stock from there. So I wanna say thank you guys for bearing with me through this. And then I have Elisa. She's gonna talk to you a little bit more about Eli Lilly and some of the side effects and everything like that. So
Great.
Go ahead.
Yes, so the way that these drugs work, and we're talking about Zepbound, which is Eli Lilly's version, but there are others, Waverly, Ozempic, etc. They started out as diabetic drugs because they treat diabetes. But if you increase the dosage, then they notice that these become weight loss drugs. And the way they work is because they stimulate hormones that are responsible for how your body reacts to the food nutrients that you're consuming, that you're eating. Okay, so the two, Zepbound is actually what they call a dual agonist. It activates two hormones. And when I say activate hormones, that's a bit of a misspeak because they're not activating the hormones, they're acting like the hormones, okay? They're not actually the hormones. But what the two hormones that Zepbound acts like, or the medicine inside the drug acts like is, there's GLP-1, which is glucagon-like peptide 1, and GIP, which is the gastric inhibitory polypeptide. Okay, so
So what does that mean?
So what that means is that GLP-1, what it does, its job is to slow gastric emptying, which means it makes the food stay in your stomach longer so that your brain gets the signal that you are full and you no longer need to eat. Okay, so that's what GLP-1 does. It makes your body feel full.
And people want to do that? People want to stop eating?
People want to stop eating, okay? And
right.
then GIP, what GIP does is when you mentioned insulin, GIP specifically makes your body more insulin sensitive, which is really important because you want your body to be able to, insulin is a whole other topic, but basically you want your body to be able to listen to insulin's message and get the blood glucose out of your system, okay? So that you can burn fat and do all those things. Okay, so the way that there are some adverse effects to these drugs, of course, because our body is very natural. It has its processes. Everything has a check and balance. And when we're adding drugs in that prolong the effects of these things, there are some other things that can happen. Okay, so for example, one of the most common adverse effects are GI issues like bloating, like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, which makes sense if you think about what it does. It's keeping the food in your stomach longer. So if that is taking longer than usual, you're gonna feel a little upset there. Okay, but it also can do the opposite and constipate you. Now, these are pretty serious. If anyone is taking these drugs and getting constipated, I would pay very close attention to that because it could lead to paralysis of your intestinal tract, that's frozen intestinal tract, which is possibly fatal. So we don't want that. You need to be getting rid of things, okay? And then the other things that it can do that are pretty severe are acute pancreatitis, which is basically terrible stomach aches. Those need to be addressed. Acute kidney issues, which can lead to decreased urine and more swelling and fatigue. as well as other smaller issues, okay? One of the biggest side effects, in my opinion, as a health and wellness advocate, is that 40%, approximately 40% of the weight lost due to these drugs is muscle and bone loss, not fat loss, and which is a problem because eventually most people are going to stop taking these drugs at some point. Either it's going to be too expensive, and if they have, or they no longer have the resources for it, or whatever. And if they have not made any lifestyle changes up until that point, what's going to come back faster? Fat, muscle, or bone?
Right.
Fat, right?
Fat.
So the fat mass is going to return to the body much more quickly than either muscle or bone. I'm not sure that bone can return to your body, but you can increase muscle with a lot of work. And here's the thing, your bone mass, your muscle mass is far more metabolically active and healthy for your overall system and for to fight against all chronic diseases than any kind of fat mass. Okay, so with all that in mind, all these people are rushing out to go get the drugs and spend thousands of dollars rather than making lifestyle changes,
so what
right?
can they do instead?
What can you do instead? There are a few things you can do, and they're pretty simple. It just needs some attention from you. So, what stimulates GLP-1 is protein and saturated fats. That's right. I said it. Protein, you need to eat lots of protein. It has been shown to stimulate GLP-1. It makes you feel full for a very long time. And if you add some saturated fats in there, like coconut oil, avocado oil, grass-fed beef, that kind of thing, you will intensify that increase of GLP-1, okay? What does not increase GLP-1 is polyunsaturated fats, which come from the vegetable oils, the soybean oils, all of the oils that are in most of our processed foods, all right? So the other thing you can do, that's pretty simple, is just eat protein and fat. And I can speak to...
I know when I eat lots of... Yeah, go ahead.
Last week, I accidentally ate way too much protein, way more than I usually eat, and I was uncomfortably full for 7 hours. And that's all I did, was
so your GLP-1 was severely activated.
My GLP-1 was up and revved high for a while. And then to increase your GIP, that polypeptide, you just simply, to make your body more insulin sensitive, you need to eat foods that don't spike insulin levels, okay? And those are the same ones: protein, fats, and let's add in some vegetables there. Crunchy vegetables, okay? Fiber. All of those will help your body become more insulin resistant, and you no longer need to spend the money or the time getting injections. Oh yeah, injection sites, that's another issue, the adverse side effects. Anyway, you don't need to deal with any of that if you choose to increase your protein, your saturated fat intake. Oh, one other interesting way that you can and stimulate GLP-1 is to sip on some yerba mate. Okay, not the powder form, but just the tea. It's a tea from Argentina. It has a fair amount of caffeine in this, so beware if you're sensitive to caffeine, but that has been shown to also stimulate GLP-1. So those are some ways that you can do it at home.
Awesome. So if you guys are taking it, we're not advocating one way or another. We're not saying that you can't take it. What we're saying is there are options, right? And if you are taking it, still make sure that you're exercising. You want to do some strength training, some resistance training, because if 40% is going to be muscle and bone loss, you need the pounding of the muscles to restore some of that bone density, as well as the weightlifting to increase your muscle density. Okay, so there are a couple things you can do if you are taking it to make sure that if you do get off of it, or when you do get off of it, then you don't have quite as severe side effects. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been super fun for me. I love listening to this stuff. Where else can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Elisa Poole Wellness. I host a podcast called Everyday Health Simplified. And then, of course, my website, elisapoolewellness.com.
Awesome. So thank you guys again so much for always commenting and liking my stuff. And then I will have some if you bring additional questions to me, I will answer them or do my best to answer them. And if you have any questions for Elisa, please post them in the YouTube channel and I'll see if I can get those answered as well. And keep in mind that all the information here is for entertainment and educational purposes only. So please do your own research, and we will see you next time on Financially Fit.
Bye.
My name is Benjamin Poole, and when I was 23, I gave my life savings to a broker who lost it all. But this taught me an invaluable lesson. I needed to educate myself to make my own financial decisions.
Fast forward 20 years, I am no longer living paycheck to paycheck, and I want to share everything I've learned with you. Welcome to Financially Fit.